Welcome to the REI Foundation Podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Peely.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the REI Foundation Podcast with Jason and Peely. Today we have Jeremiah Johnson. Yay!
Welcome, Jeremiah.
Thanks, guys.
So much for being on the show with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Awesome. So Jeremiah is a real estate investor hailing from, what was it, Kansas?
Well, it's a full story we'll let Jeremiah jump into, but he is in Denver, I believe, but now investing in Wichita, Kansas. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about your background, and then we can start fast forward to what you're doing today.
How'd you get started?
So I was originally in medical device sales for several years, and I'd always read books and kind of dabbled in rentals, but never really jumped in head first to real estate investing or flipping, but it was something that fascinated me. And I was in an accident, actually, that kind of smashed up my leg. And so I had some time on the couch where I was healing because of all the surgeries that I was undergoing. And during that time, I got my real estate license and I studied a lot more about real estate. And, you know, as far as wealth building, actually, I started following a guy out of California. His name's Matt Terrio. And I was listening to his podcast a lot. And more millionaires and billionaires are made out of real estate than any other profession or any other industry. And because of that, I decided that was something I should focus on. So I went to a weekend seminar in Denver. I wasn't working yet, and it was put on by a hard money company there locally. And the couple that I ended up doing acquisition for several years were on the expert panel. And at the end of the day, you know, Hope raised her hand and she's like, and we're hiring, you know, if you're interested, let us know. And I went home, talked to my wife about it. And it's like, you know, don't have another medical job yet. What do we have to lose? And so I sent my resume. The rest is history. And so I did acquisition for them, which was great training for several years. And last November, I resigned and I went out on my own and have since been doing flipping and wholesaling and bought several rentals too.
That's
Fantastic.
Amazing. I think that's an incredible point, is that a lot of our listeners, they're trying to find their entry into real estate, and there's already, they feel so many hurdles or so many reasons or blockers that they keep themselves from getting started. But for you even found a way, almost backing yourself into it by finding a position with someone who's actually doing it and been able to build yourself from ground up. So it just goes to show people you can start this in so many different ways. And especially when you first want to get started, that, you going on to be an acquisition person, you had someone else guiding you with what they're looking for, and it's helped you now grow into your company.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah. And, I've talked with my wife about that. Like, I was so lucky to have found them. And she's like, yeah, you're lucky. Yes and no. But she's like, you were the one that you were on crutches, going to that weekend seminar. Nobody forced you to do that. Like you worked your way into that situation or found it, So, cause I was definitely working on it. It's just, it is it's an intimidating thing, cause you're not trading small items, jumping into houses if you've never done it can be pretty scary.
Yeah. So that definitely helped you get over the fear factor?
It did. Well, like I said, I had a few rentals that I had acquired, but I'd never really full-fledged, done flips so it did, because seeing other people that had done it or that were doing it actively and doing it well, it was kind of, I don't want to, if they can do it, I can too.
No, we hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah, that really is. It illustrated to me like, well, this isn't rocket science. Like I can do this.
there's a system you can follow and you can do it and do it well. I mean, because we're all a part of a Mastermind, and that's sort of the thought process behind like our mentors. Like if they can do it, we can do it too.
For sure. It's a huge confidence builder.
Yeah.
And well, on that and surrounding yourself with other people that are doing it is also, it helps.
The energy is right. So you put everybody else around you. Now you have other people that have already done it. So now you're not so scared. There's like, you can see further down the road. So lots of times people get stuck at that point while they find every fear blocker possible before. And so that will never happen out there, but that will be all the reasons that they won't actually start. Like, what if I buy a house and it burns down?
Yep.
Well, then that will happen. But has it happened? No. Have you bought a house? No. So let's not set up 25 things for why you can't do it. But that's awesome. That's a great point.
So I'm going to rephrase this question for you because it's going back to what we're talking about, the fear factor. So you were actually working for a couple and you were working for them for 3.5 years. What was the aha moment when you were like, okay, I can do this on my own? What made you take that step?
I went to an event in California where I met Jason. Mm-hmm. I went to flip hacking, and so there were two prongs to this. One is I've always had the confidence after I really had a good enough knowledge base that I could do it. But my significant other, my wife, I wouldn't say she wasn't behind it, but she didn't have all the knowledge that I had, and so it was also very scary for her because she's an awesome partner and she stays home with the kids, and so if my income is gone, then that's that was a big leap of faith or a big jump for her. And when she went to the event with me and got to go through all the education, it changed her mind or, got her on board. She was like, we just need to do this. It's time. So for me, a lot of it was getting my partner on board too. My spouse, Heather has backed me 100% of the way, which is awesome.
Yay, Heather.
Yeah.
Completely see eye to eye with Heather on that because especially when Jason decided to get into multifamilies, I was like, okay, go ahead. But my brain's not wrapping around that. And so it wasn't until he actually closed his first deal that I was like, okay, this is 94 units. Awesome.
Right.
So, I was like, okay, so it can be done. It's not like something you just read in a book. Yeah. So like bringing your wife, bringing your partner. I mean, I think that's a great way to like take the jump, especially if you're already doing it and already like geared up to do it. Like even having her be behind you, I mean, that was key, it sounds like.
Well, it's probably a huge thought that you actually brought her out to an event where it can show so many other people that are putting together systems and that you're not just tossing darts at the wall and hoping, is that you have a plan of action. And that always helps too, because I know that you're surrounded with people in your life, family, friends, and everybody else, and you come up with an idea, I'm going to go do real estate, and you've already at least been successfully doing it with part of the other group. But they're always going to find a lot of reasons not to. So if you can show them that the format's there, it makes your path a lot longer, especially when you have your wife on board, and that's really your trigger. So that's awesome. Cool. So tell us a little bit about fast forwarding to where you are now, because you were in Denver before, and that's where you were doing all the acquisition work. Now you've moved out of state. Give us a little feedback on that.
Yeah, so we decided to pick Denver's a highly competitive, extremely explosive market, and the price point is pretty high. So starting out, I decided that it would be a good idea to start in a more of a B or a C market, less barrier to entry from a marketing perspective. The houses don't cost as much. So, to me, there's still risk, but the perceived risk was lower. In addition, if you look at the market trends, Denver's on about a 14-year peak to peak or trough to trough, and we've blown right past that peak. So who knows what's going to happen? I think it's going to continue for a while, but Wichita, where I grew up right outside of Wichita, is a smaller town. It's a aircraft industrial town for the most part, pretty blue collar. And if you look at the market trends for like 2007, 2008, it wasn't the cliff, and then it hasn't shot back up. It's more of a speed bump. And so I wouldn't say it's recession prone or proof, I guess, but it was less cyclical or less extreme, if you will. And the average or the median price point here is about 159 versus 275 in Denver, and I think that's actually probably higher now since I was working there. Just in the last, it's just going up like crazy, and so that was why we picked it. And so I had proximity to family, and then it was less extreme in terms of the price undulations, and then also I think the price point was lower. And like here, our spend on pay-per-click or marketing, it's 600,000 people versus 4 million. And so it made it a lot easier to test market and figure out our systems before we go after a tier one market, if we decide to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We may just stay in the B or C markets because it seems to be working pretty well.
And I think that's a great point, because you push out. I was just going to ask it. You're having such success here. Why would you push to the tier one market if you have this model that's working with the BC? So you're familiar with it. You have family there. You grew up in the area, and you've been there. If other people are in a highly competitive market, you talked about a few things that quote unquote made a market recession proof. Any more feedback on how people can identify a market that may be good for them?
I don't know about proof.
Proof, yeah, I don't know. Proof is the wrong word. So no word's recession proof, but with some where they'll say insulated, where we're not going to get those peaks and valleys that are pushing off a cliff, and then like Miami, where you're up 35% and then you're down 40%, or Vegas, where you're jumping through the moon.
Right. Yeah. Well, I looked at the trends, with the real estate commission here locally, and then the census data, and population's been really slowly increasing, and industry is pretty stable where it's at. They do, it's aircraft, so it does fluctuate with the economy, but that's how I did it. And as far as other markets, I don't want to tip our hand, but I have our next three, at least identified where we think we want to scale into.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, for our listeners out there, really think about what Jeremiah just said. When you're looking for your market, you don't necessarily, number one, you don't necessarily have to be in the market that you live in.
No.
And number two, when you're researching your market, just do that research. Look at the market trends, talk to realtors, talk to people that are in the market. You'll be surprised. You think that people are very, very I don't know, keep their information close to heart, but things like that, most investors will sit down with you if you're really truly looking for it. Go to your RIA meetings, talk.
Well, getting started here, Facebook was a really big tool because I started posting a lot of our properties here, and building our buyers list via Facebook. And I found, because, even though I had family here, I didn't know the market and I didn't have contacts. And so I've had to build my team here with, we've got a really close, I'd call it a strategic alliance with a realtor. He's also a flipper, and he does a lot of our comps for our acquisition folks. So they run their own, then he runs them. So we have parallel comping. So we have an idea that we're either way off or right on our values, you know what I mean? And, found him via Facebook, and he's been a great customer and also a pretty good alliance to have. And same thing with contractors and property managers. All those people are crucial in this type of business, at least in my opinion. And, so that was one of the things that I really use Facebook a lot to network and find a lot of those folks because people want to help.
Yeah. Nice. So you just kind of answered my next question, which was going to be, how did you build out your team since you're not on the ground there? But it sounds like you did a lot of your, legwork on Facebook and word of mouth.
Yeah, and the local real estate group here. That those are kind of, they have their own private group, and so you can post stuff on there, and it's about 2,000 people, and everybody's pretty helpful. So it's been a pretty invaluable tool Facebook has. And then I travel back here. I'm not going to say I've done it all virtually because I'm here right now in Kansas. And my whole family's here because the kids, right before they go back to school, are spending time with grandma and grandpa. But
nice.
Yeah, I've commuted, quite a lot, and I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure people do it 100% virtually, but if you're flipping and wholesaling and taking down rentals, at least stuff that I'm buying, I want to see it. Not necessarily to flip, but if I'm holding it, I kind of want to walk through it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're investing in stocks where it's like some magical number for some company that exists somewhere. Like that's why you get into real estate, because you have something real to hold on to. So why not take a look at it? That's smart.
What does your team look like now?
Yeah, director. I have a property manager, a realtor partner for comps, and then he flips a lot. He doesn't want to be a listing agent. We've got listing agents that we refer everything to. So, since we're not realtors, they pay us a marketing fee for leads that we funnel to them that they list and sell.
That's great.
So we basically are like a Zillow in that, we do a lot of direct marketing, and when people come into us that aren't a good fit for our model, then we refer them to the realtors for a marketing fee.
That's awesome.
And then internally we have 2 acquisition managers, just hired a lead manager and looking at transaction coordinator too. And then title company is something I didn't mention. You really need to find. We've kind of had to go through a few to find one that wanted to be a kind of partner, because they can really make your life way easier or harder, when you're doing high volume transactions, which, 6 to 10 a month to me seems pretty high volume, but that's my experience. And so, if they like I said, they can make your life easier or harder if they delay title work, or if they're on it, or if they catch errors for you and they've got your back. So that's kind of what the, direct employees it's for.
That's great.
Yeah, that's funny, because we're also in the market for a new title company.
Yeah, we've been on the plus and minus of that side. So yeah, it's definitely
new title company, new lawyers. Don't tell our lawyers if you're listening to this.
They're watching.
Yeah. So tell us.
Yeah, we have a lawyer too. A couple of them actually for different things.
Yeah.
So your day-to-day, tell us a little bit more about your flips. Are you looking to take on projects that are mainly first-time home buyer? What kind of flips do you like to get into? Or are you basically just cleaning it up and trying to put in? Is it a mix of everything? Are you looking for more aggressive flips where you're adding square footage? Give us a little bit more about where you like to focus.
We haven't done any additions, so no square footage additions yet. But we've done everything from just a carpet and paint quick one. I actually did a hotel on a mobile home that we didn't even put carpet or paint in, that I was just blown away. But it was on acreage and it had a huge barn, and that in this market is desirable. So anything from wholetailing, which, just basically clean it and stick a sign in the yard, to there's one we're doing right now that which for here is a pretty high ARV. It's 205, and it's a brick ranch. The gentleman was in his 90s, and it's pretty much circa 1960. It hasn't been touched. And so we're raising the roof on the garage. So it's not square footage, but structural change. And then it's a complete, HVAC, electric, plumbing. It's a full remodel, but we got it from a probate lead. So it's kind of a gamut, really, as far as what we're doing in terms of flips. No new construction, but we're dabbling in a new strategy. In August, we've got 6 properties going to auction, which that could be interesting. Yeah. So we found a local auction house that would let us, if we had to do an addendum, and battery's about ready to die. Hang on. We had to do an addendum to where they gave us express permission to list on the MLS or market, even take the auction. And it says that they sign it. And so these have been houses that we weren't able to flip in the past. Either they were too thin, or, houses under $50,000, which we run into a lot of them here in Wichita. Prior to running into the auction strategy, I haven't been able to do anything. We haven't been able to do, because they're just so plentiful that, you can't really mark them up. There's so much price compression at $50,000. A kitchen is, 10 or 15, and bathroom is 3 to 5. And so, that's what, 20% of your budget or 20% of the ARV right there, just in 2 rooms. So we haven't touched them. And so if we buy them, inexpensively enough, we're hoping we're putting them in an auction and we'll see how that goes.
Oh, that's great. How did you come upon that? Did you just had that and just something that clicked your mind and said, let me search this out, or?
No, it was an accident. I went to the auction thinking I was going to bid on a few properties. So it's 6 times a year here. They have a multi-property auction for investors. And so I went and looked at like 30 houses in one day of 45. And I had my sheet and I was writing all the values down. And I went to the auction that night and I had my, my number ready to bid. And I was out in like the first 3 to 5 minutes on every single property I was going to bid. Because they just, and so then what was an acquisition strategy may have evolved into what could be a pretty good disposition strategy, but we'll see.
That's incredible.
We definitely wanted to find out how that works, because we're looking for
work.
Yeah.
Looking at the numbers from the last auction, that's the thing is I only have one data set because Kansas is a non-disclosure state.
Cool.
Once something sells, there's no published data as far as what sales prices were. And that stinks. You can't really, it's harder to pull comps and it's harder to really look at historic data because they just don't share it. So, that what I have is what I saw, and just writing down the numbers. So, it was in June. So maybe it was the highest auction of the year, because it was summer. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about how
though.
all your properties sell and what the profit margins are on these. That's awesome if you can get into these properties that you wouldn't be able to turn otherwise.
Well, the way I did the math is if we can do just $5,000 on each of them, and we're doing 6 in August. And the auction happens 6 times a year. That's an additional $180,000 a year in revenue.
That's amazing.
That you wouldn't have had otherwise. That's awesome.
We would have just left, in the database, basically.
See, there's another key point for our listeners. Always be looking out for different ways to turn your properties. You might not, whether or not you go to auction, whether or not you try and put them on the MLS, these are all awesome options. Thank you.
We were talking about this. This is like the pivot where the market's constantly going to change. And if you're not changing with the market, or at least adjusting with the market, you're going to get stuck behind if you're if you're stubborn and just saying, I'm just going to do this one thing. So that's cool. I'm really psyched to see how that works out. That's incredible.
Yeah. 3 weeks.
3 weeks. There we go. That's it. I'll be back in touch. So you've been now in Kansas for how long? Have you been?
6 months.
6 months.
Wow.
7. We started in January, really.
Now, tell us some projections. How was your focus? How's your year shaping up? What kind of volume are you looking to do as you grow into the market?
We will do over 100 transactions this year.
Amazing.
Boom.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And, our average wholesale has been, when we entered, I really wanted it to be, I was thinking 7,500 was a good benchmark, whereas Denver was way higher. But the cost per lead is way higher. And so I was thinking that was a good spot to be. We've been a little higher than that. And, the bulk of the transactions that we've done probably 60% wholesale, 20% flip, and then I've bought quite a few actually to hold too. So, and the other area that we're really, really strongly looking at is seller finance, because we haven't. Have you guys done that? I have not.
Not yet, but we have looked at it.
Yeah.
So this market's perfect for it because the average price point of 150. There's a lot of 120 and below, and we're able to get a lot of subject twos, and we're able to get a lot of seller finance properties. And so you can turn around, and that takes the private money out of it, and then resell those, flip them a little bit and resell them on a note. And so, I'm really wanting to pursue that strategy because I can see how that would really be a nice passive income stream. And having had rentals and toilets and tenants, not having the toilets and tenants.
Yes.
Also sounds pretty darn appealing.
Like not having to worry about that, but still getting the revenue stream. Well, it sounds like you're delving into all sorts of different ways to expand and grow your business. But to take it to another aspect of the business, what would you say was so far has been the biggest setback? I don't want to say the word failure, but learning experience that you could share with our listeners, something that they could learn from.
Since ramping up your business yourself, that's maybe been a hurdle, and how you've gotten past that.
Oh gosh, that's a big question.
Yeah, diving deep.
As far as big learning, it's probably it's not as much a setback as just trust the process. Because I listening to all the podcasts and reading all the books and having experience working for somebody else, I still had pretty big doubt and fear in the back of my mind up until the point where we pulled the trigger. And I would say that was the biggest obstacle for us, was a perceived obstacle that probably wasn't really there, because having done it now, I know it's totally doable. And if we wouldn't have, if I would have stayed behind that cloak of fear, I would still be, either working for somebody else or who knows, and, so that was a big aha. But I will tell you something, that I was really reluctant to pay for an appraisal on properties that we were buying. Mm-hmm. And I posted on the group about this, that 8-plex, it's a multifamily, and we had it under contract for $150, and it rents for $3,200 a month. It's 8 units. And that's not, for $150, I was like, it seems like a no-brainer. It's a great deal. But I still made the contract subject to appraisal, and I almost didn't go through with it because it was $2,000 for the appraisal. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, God, that's a lot, for just 8 units, $2,000, and I'm buying it for $150. Why do I need an appraisal? The cash flow's there. But I did it, and it came back at $105. And so we were 45 upside down above retail. So we close on it Tuesday for $85,000.
Nice.
Yep.
So that $2,000 appraisal,
for you.
Yeah. Saved me $65,000 in money that I would have spent. So that was a big,
yeah.
I won't ever skimp on that ever.
I would love to know.
Boom.
So you're at 150, right? So I guess a point would be maybe a good learning experience would be, how did that negotiation process go after you got that appraisal back, that you were able to go back and get it at 80? Where you just bring the appraisal back and say, this is just the numbers we've come up with, and this is what's actual numbers here. We need to have this reduction, or how did that go with the seller?
Well, we walk them through costs of a transaction.
Yep.
What they're going to net if they sell with a realtor. And so we had this closing date, and she wanted the closing date. And, so here's the appraisal, and the contract was subject to appraisal. We're sorry, we didn't come up with this figure. This is where it's at. If we'll either bail on the contract right now, because this is our out, or, 105 minus your commissions, minus your closing costs, minus what it's going to cost you in inspection repairs and possible turnover. Here's all the numbers that you can back out of that. And there was one unit that needed rent ready. And so that was also in there. We'll go ahead and take it for the 85 now, and we'll close next Tuesday like we were planning on, or, you can take it to the market. And that was pretty much the discussion. And
it's incredible.
I was blown away that she said, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it wasn't us. My station area was not on that appraisal, and she's got to live with that actually for 12 months because it's an appraisal, and she could get a second opinion. And technically, because we ordered it, she doesn't have to accept it. She could get her own independent, but she said yes. So
she wanted out.
You had that motivation. She had a time frame, and the time frame was more important for whatever was her personal reasons than actually trying to wait it out and find a better number. So awesome. That's amazing.
Almost a 50% price reduction.
Wow.
Like that. And if I almost didn't spend the money.
Great lessons. Wow. Wow. $65,000.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
For two.
Awesome.
So we always talk about failures. We like to compliment that on why are you actually doing this? What is your big why? So you put on this effort, you have so much risk in your mind and so many uncertainties, but what is the big why you chose this path?
So go back to that last question real quick. There is one failure. We bought a house in December that somebody was killed at.
Oh.
We didn't know it, actually, when we bought it. The affidavit came out from the court after we were already owners. But we did know that the people that sold it to us were the people that perpetrated the crime. We just didn't know what happened at the house. And so I would recommend that don't buy a stigma house. We did, unless you're going to hold it for a long time and rent it. Yeah. It's still on the books, and we're now paying to rehab and sell that house. So hindsight being 2020, that's our biggest failure to date on the books is that we're losing money, basically. We're paying to rehab that house. We're paying to sell it to somebody else. Yeah. And that stinks, And it was the first one we did.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, but it will sell.
A good story.
Mm-hmm. Well, it complements with you. Exactly. You say this is that okay? Now you've still pushed forward. So you move in a new market. You have all this uncertainty. You buy a house. It's a problem, and you just say, okay, that happened.
And it doesn't sound so much as a failure as in you found out about this afterwards, and now you're not failing at it because you are doing something about it.
Yeah, you adjust.
You're adjusting, and that's that's the way to go.
Yeah, great lesson.
So we're aggressively dropping price until we just want to stop the bleeding, Yeah. Just get it off the books. Out. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that was a big. I wouldn't buy another stigma home, because you just think about somebody got tortured there, and buying it. Kids are mean. They talk, you live in the torture house. I could just see it. And
jeez.
Yeah. So that was that was a learning experience, and it still is today because we still have it.
Oh no.
Yeah. Bummer.
I wonder if if any of our listeners out there have an idea for Jeremiah or anybody, please leave us a note as to what you would do for a stigma house. How would you unstigmatize it if it's even possible? But back to the question. So what is your big why? Why do you do this?
So you know what? It's evolved because I have been extremely busy for this last 6 months, as I know you guys are. And my why originally was financial. I want that financial freedom, and I want to be able to do the things I want to do. And that was really why I thought that I wanted it. And that has evolved. Well, of course, in my family, I want to provide for my family, and I love my wife and my kids. But that goes back to the financial. But now, having started this, it is really, really busy. And the end goal, because I can see now that the financial piece it's coming. 6 months in, we're not done by any means, but I can definitely see light at the end of the tunnel that it won't be the issue or the motivating factor in the future. And now, for me, it's to create a framework or a business that will give me the freedom to spend more time with the friends and family and doing the things that I really like to do. Because I don't know that there's any other job you can have that gives you the opportunity to have that type of freedom. And for me, I've really gotten to the point, once we reach a point of, a passive income where we don't need to work necessarily from a financial perspective, I don't know that I'll continue just want to grind it like I am. I might want to take a 3-month vacation and take the kids and go to the beach. That to me sounds a lot more important than money now. But and I don't see that changing actually. That motivation could evolve. The why could change, because I think I'd like to help other people because, like you guys are doing with your podcast and maybe doing some education in the future and helping other people to learn how to set themselves free. Because I can see that it really will work, but my why is more of a bigger picture now, and friends and family and freedom more so than financial.
Family and freedom.
Yeah,
that's a good why.
Yeah, it's a great point because a lot of us we jump in this point looking for that freedom and be able to have our own business, but we find ourselves that there's no turnoff. So you almost just now you've created yourself a job, and the job is now 5 or 6 times more work than you were doing previously. And this was the whole reason to get out of that. So when you set that framework, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not there.
But you have it mentally in your mind that that's where you want to go. Because sometimes people just get they're just so in it. And I've been in it with my business. We're just so in it. You can't realize that you're doing this, but you're not actually getting to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. It's like you're grinding and you're doing it every day, but then you realize, like I didn't see my kids all day, or, I got to like give them a kiss goodnight. I understand. I understand completely where you're coming from. That's
happening right now. So.
So you're 6 months in, you're having huge action going on in your business. Where do you see this business going in 5 years? What's their carry through?
That's a good question. And so I'm kind of looking at a couple different things, and, lots of people have these types of businesses and are very, very successful. And so we were thinking, maybe systematize and franchise in B markets.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think we have a pretty catchy name with Friendly Home Buyer. And, if you can build the systems that, because I think that finding entrepreneurs that want to franchise is probably more, that's something that's duplicatable. You can find people a lot of people want to buy franchises, and a lot of people want to be in real estate. So there may be some special sauce there. Mm-hmm. Either that or, that's just one thing, because I know going into a satellite market now, it's hard, because I live in Denver and I'm working here. And I think if we get that cracked, which we're working on it, then we could do 2 or 3 more markets. And, so the franchise piece just kind of came up in the last couple of months of like, would that even work? Because I know that there are some other guru type people that have done some 800 numbers and that have tried to do that. And I don't think recreating yourself is hard, and so it really would have to be buttoned up really tightly to where this is, if you're going to do this, then you have an if-then chart for pretty much everything. And I don't know if that'll work or not, but definitely 2 or 3 more markets. And like I said, we've got them picked out. It just, I was aggressively wanting 3 markets in 3 years. And now that we're at month 7 on market number 1, I think I'm going to go deeper rather than wider. Here. And once we have all the pieces in place and the machine is oiled, then I think it would be okay to start looking at a secondary market. But right now we're still, it's like we jumped off of a building or we're building the airplane on the way down. I've heard a lot of people say that. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, I understand. And,
you're
like, you have the wings maybe, but you're still flapping them yourself.
Yeah.
Right. I really like the multifamily stuff because one thing you said in Detroit, we've got how many doors and we've got 3 roofs or 4 roofs. And I was like,
yeah,
that really makes sense. Like the economies of scale there. So that's also another area that I'd like to pursue.
We like it a lot, just that you can afford a staff. And so I can pay to have the staff on site. And so with this, and I'm also paying a less percentage for management. So if I have to have, if I got 10 toilets that are broke in 10 single family homes, I got a guy who I got to hire to run around the 10 houses where everything can just stay in-house, and that some of the economies of scale start to really help. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole lending thing is different too, right? They loan on the asset, not on the person then at that point.
Correct. Yeah. And you actually, the bigger you go, the easier it gets based on vacancy. A lot of the agency wants you to be at least 90%. So if you have, 10plex, that's only, one person. But if you have, 100 units, you'd have to have 10 people vacant consistently to really have some struggles going possibly with your debt structure for that type of debt. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can play it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I like hearing about your market, because that sounds like a market that we like to focus on. BC markets have population growth that's steady, no big spikes, has job creation, has job diversity. So yeah, that sounds like something we actually would be looking for with Wichita. So very interesting.
Well, it sounds like all of your end games, all of your goals are very, very reachable, and have like for instance, what you said about franchising. I mean, that goes into like helping other people get into the business. I mean, if you have this proven model for other investors to like jump into, I mean, why not? Why not do that? I mean, you can think of it as you're helping people get into these markets that, they normally wouldn't necessarily.
Do you guys think that would work?
I think it might.
Think of everything that you've done to get, I mean, it's a lot to wrap your head around. I don't know that a manual, I
don't think a manual would cover it, but if you think about it, like if you package it in a way that it's sort of an educational platform that also will start your business. So you say, these are the manuals. I'm on call for you to, call me if you need help, but like, this is what you have to do, A, B, C, D, E, and F, G. But then like you need to tailor it to your own market. I mean, there's so much you'd have to think about.
Yeah, because there's a lot of market-driven uniqueness to different states,
but it can become a safety blanket too for people, and that's a good thing about the franchise model is they set up a form. I keep trying to convince Peely that I love the franchise model. I want to do a donut franchise right now, but I got lights going everywhere, so I stop. But for this, yeah. So, but if you have this set up, it gives people a reason that they can get started, because people will find, so many different ways. Oh, I don't have a website, or I don't have a business card. I don't have a logo. I don't know how to talk to people, and at least would help them have a framework that they can at least reference back and help them to position themselves to take that step. And we all know that taking that first step is the hardest thing. Once you take that first step, you go, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we can take another one and really get them out of the gate. We would love to combo that with our next question here, is that if you had one piece of advice that you would love to give people here that have been thinking about this and have been on the sideline for whatever amount of time, what would be something that would be an actionable step they could take today to get themselves moving with the process of investing in real estate?
An actionable step.
Got you on the platform now.
Yeah, that's a big one. You know what? If they've not ever done anything, I would find a local realtor and go look at 15 houses.
That's great.
Nice.
That's great.
Go look at 15 HUD houses, and maybe see if they can find a contractor to go with them and put together some budgets, just rough budgets on 10 or 15 houses, and then come up with their offers and submit them.
Yeah.
Then you got the ability to say no.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it.
Awesome answer.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually great. You could do that today. If you're listening to this, you could get out there, find a realtor, go see 15 houses, have a contractor meet you, get repair budgets, put in offers. And with you putting out offers, it doesn't mean you have to take the house if someone says yes. And maybe you got a great deal. So even helps you even more. But you can get to the point where you've taken an actionable step, and that's going to help you down. That was awesome. That's perfect.
Great answer. So before we leave you, what are some words to live by?
Gosh, you guys, these are hard questions.
We save it all for the end.
Yeah. Man, I have fun at what you're doing.
Nice.
If you're not, you should probably do something else.
Yeah. Good.
Right.
That's good.
Yep.
Great words to live by.
Yep.
Have fun.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
If you're not enjoying yourself, then it's probably not the right fit.
Yeah.
No, that's completely right. If you're not having fun, you're not enjoying what you're doing, do something else. It's not worth it. Life's too short, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we let you go, if there was a place that you could send people to, they could find a little bit more about you, or maybe if you're looking to build out your buyers list, some people in your market, give us a place that people can find you.
Or friendlyhomebuyer.com. That's our website for motivated sellers. And then Wichita Wholesale Houses is our wholesale site.
That's great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so very much, Jeremiah.
Thanks, guys.
If you don't have anything else to share with us, some words of wisdom, we're going to sign off. More words of wisdom.
I'm good there.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate this. This is fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on. We're so grateful to have you. So again, this is the REI Foundation with Jason and Peely. Thank you again so much, Jeremiah. So grateful to have you on, and so grateful for our listeners for being here. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Peely here from the REI Foundation podcast. Looking to rev up your wholesaling or house flipping business? Go now to houseflippinghq.com. Jason and I are part of a house flipping family, a community created by Justin Williams. Would we be where we are without him and without his community and his mentors? Probably not. Justin and his team basically handed us personalized shortcuts and exact strategies that have made us explode in today's market. So if you're looking to take the next step, go to houseflippinghq.com right now. Again, this is Peely from the REI Foundation podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we are so grateful for you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.